3, 2, 1, go. Welcome to Grounds After Rounds.
So I used to do I tried to do a series called Origins, where I had like folks come in, and it was kind of cool. I think I did one with Drew. Allie was the first one. And basically just asking people's backstories. It was kind of in the vein of superhero movies, where like the Marvel movies, you get like Spider-Man's origin story or Hulk's origin story. Everyone loves origin stories. Okay. And so that was the thought process behind it.
Okay.
They twilighted just because it was like one more thing and just didn't stick. Oh. But so what has stuck is having people come on and kind of do basically, like we had Jeff on, and it wasn't Jeff Wells, like it was just like his story.
Okay.
And so that was sort of the thought with this. It's always fun to kind of get Eric renamed them, kind of keeping up with the creek while folks were on quarantine. And so we thought we'd have you in that vein of keeping up with the creek.
Well, thanks.
And just finding out,
Thanks
what's your
for
story.
thinking about me.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. I don't know, have you listened to any of the episodes?
Yeah, some of them.
So, pretty straightforward.
Did you ever get your sourdough starter?
No. It's just so... It's like... Again, like...
Sorry.
It's just one more thing. You know what I mean? Like, Nicole and I always joke about it, too. We have, like, all these house projects that I'm not going to do them, but, like, that we're going to get done.
Yeah.
So, like, I got a general contractor, and that didn't... I got to follow back up with him because it all happened, like, right... We had, like, momentum, and then quarantine hit. Yeah. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, and then everybody shut down.
Yeah, exactly. This actually isn't that bad. Oh, it's a ton of sugar.
Yeah, I wouldn't drink it if I were you.
Yeah.
70 calories versus 10.
The calories isn't what gets me. It's the
sugar.
Yeah, and it's the cream. I'm pretty sensitive to lactose.
Well, I would have drank that then.
Oh no, man, I'll leave it free. He likes it. That's my God.
Yeah, I don't. I'll have a piece of dark chocolate every now and then, but I'm not a very sugar kind of guy.
Yeah. I stopped drinking almost, it'll be 10 years this October. And when I did that though, like I already had kind of a sweet tooth, but it's either have another beer or have a piece of cake.
Yeah.
And as soon as you have the piece of cake, like drinking lights off. And so I always I'll just keep drinking the beer. And
that's what I do. That's my problem.
But when I stopped, then it's like, oh, now the sweet tooth came out, in force.
Yeah. Yeah. Quarantine hasn't helped that.
Agreed. But yeah, so we'll, it's kind of free flowing, like just sort of a Q&A back and forth. We'll do, it makes it easier for me for the, post-production stuff to have, we'll have a specific, cut in.
Sure.
But it really... What's so funny, you'll notice, most people start with, they think, I'm talking to everybody right here.
Imagine super sensitive.
Well, it's more of you just get focused.
Oh.
The fact, as soon as we added that, Eric, like a monkey in the, have you ever seen those videos of monkeys in the jungle? They put a mirror, and then they're looking at it. That, he was this the whole time. And so I'm like, yo, dude, let's just, pretend it's not there. Yeah. And then he got better at it.
Yeah, actually, the more senior I got in the Navy, I had to go through media classes.
Oh, really?
About talking, staying away from all that and talking to people. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
This just becomes the third person in the room that you don't even know is there.
Yeah. And, posture and all that stuff they taught you.
That's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was that at a PXO or PCO type of school?
Yeah. Both of them. Yeah, both of them.
I remember... we went through KLE, Key Leadership Engagement Training, when I was getting ready to take Moby at 12 over in support of Third ID. Mm-hmm. And that was 2008, 2009. They were going to go be M&F North. or M&D North, depending on your service, if you call it. The Army kept calling it M&D because they're a division, and they wanted to be a division and not not a force.
Right.
But they were MNF because it was a joint. It was a joint operation, and we were their our 05 command, Mobile Unit 12, was their counter IED. We were Task Force Troy North. We were their counter IED cell.
Oh wow.
So.
So 2000, you were there 2008, 2009.
I was there 05, 06, 06, 08, 07, 08, 09, and then that was it.
You had enough.
Yeah, that was when I transitioned, because I left Mobile Unit 12 in November of 9, came back stateside briefly, and then immediately went over to Hawaii for Matsu 1 XO tour, and I was Pacific bound the whole time.
Wow.
Our command went over as CTF 56 or CTG 56.1, and I was acting CO during that time frame. So I was bouncing around the Pacific the whole time, checking in on all of our forces, which was awesome. And then that's when the JP&P thing came into existence, and I looked at it, and Nicole was like, "Oh, that's it."
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I was CNAV. What was I CNAV?
OOC or
Chairman of Seamanship and Navigation at Navy.
Oh, at the academy.
Yeah, I was.
Oh,
CNAV.
no shit.
I taught there 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. As like a 03, 05,
01.
06.
I did. After graduation, we taught summer sailing, waiting for SWAS to open up. So I taught 3 months of sailing in CNAV, and then I went and did an amphib tour and then a hydrofoil tour down in Key West, and then they sent me back as a lieutenant, 91 to 94.
Okay.
And then they had a big riff, and I got past the riff, and then they brought me back after 05 command to be the chairman of CNAV.
Okay. What year was that?
That was 04, 05. No, let's see. I went to command 04, 05. So it would have been like probably 06 to 08.
Okay.
And then I did I was selected as a SecDef corporate fellow. And then Navy, from Naval Academy, I went and did a 1-year industry tour with Northrop Grumman. And that was 08, 09. And then my payback tour was the QDR in the Pentagon. That was my payback tour. That was brutal. Before I went out to Major Command.
Oh man.
And that's where I spent 3 years on Enterprise.
Okay. Well, were you were the CO or no?
Commodore for the Desron 2 on Enterprise.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did that back-to-back deployments. The last 2 deployments on Enterprise. It's cool being a Commodore.
You may have been there when my buddy Gobar was on the Enterprise.
If he was there for any of the last 2 cruises, I was there.
That would have been what time frame? Oh,
it was 10.
Oh no, nope.
10 to 13.
Nope.
10
he
to
was
12.
already, because he and I were on TR. Oh, I thought that was earlier. Yeah, Enterprise. He was on Enterprise much earlier than that.
Yeah, so I did the 8. The last 2 cruises were 8 and
then that's it,
9.
right? She's done.
Yeah, she got scrapped. What was the cruises? 8 and 9.5 months, I think, the last 2 cruises.
That's awesome.
With 4 port visits on each one.
I always, our mid right now, who's living in our basement, I always try and, I'm like, yeah, that's the deal. Like, you've joined the Navy, which are 6-month deployments that oddly seem to always take 9 to 10 months.
They were 6. The destroyers I always served on were pretty, pretty set on 6 months until 9/11, and then 9/11 blew the whole door open.
Yeah. Then you're independent deployer, and then it's like, this exercise, oh, let's tack that deployment on.
Right.
Like,
and go do this 3-month exercise in North Atlantic. And, and you're like, okay.
This feels a lot like a deployment, and you're calling it an exercise. I'm so confused. Am I on deployment or not?
But the tour that, people ask, well, what kept you in the Navy? Because I was always a 5 and dive guy. I was like...
By the way, we're basically in it at this point, and I'll figure out like where we go in.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I'll probably do like an intro because I totally blew the intro.
Oh, and so I was totally a 5 and dive guy. I was kind of like, my first ship was an amphib, and it was horrendous. Poor leadership.
Yeah.
Poor, it was an LST, which is, shows you where I was in the graduating
I
class.
remember. Well, that's so funny. Those were eligible for divers coming out of dive school.
Is that right?
1140 or then in 1190s. That we would minesweepers, ARSs, LSTs because they at least had some sort of salvage-ish role.
Yeah.
Then LHAs, LSDs, LPDs. Then if like none of those could be filled, then you would go to like a DDG or something. But yeah, so
all the divers went to minesweeps.
Minesweeps and mine hunters. Yeah, that was the.
Well, back then we only had the MSOs.
Oh gosh,
the old wooden ones they brought back.
They're still all wooden. They're as they twilight them out, but they're all that carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber, yeah.
Yeah. So what made the LST so it was because they're tiny comparatively to other amphibs. So
flat bottom.
Yeah.
Rolled all the time. I never got seasick. But it's just the quality of people. It was the
dredges.
It was.
Of the
it was.
Navy.
Here I am, this new ensign, and you get. Back then it was either jail or the Navy, right? And so I would muster my division, and it was like all hoodlums. It was loan sharkers. We had loan sharking rings. We had.
Holy crap!
Oh yeah, back in the mid '80s. It was different, and so that was kind of like, well, I don't want to do this. And then, there were some good senior officer leaders in there, but they weren't what the Naval Academy. You come out of the Naval Academy
thinking like everybody's a Captain America.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden you go, ooh, this is different.
Yeah.
And so there were some really good guys, and so So I remember I did back-to-back deployments on there, and then we were off down at Vieques and Rosie Roads, and back then there was no email. There was only 2 computers on the whole ship. CO had one and admin had one. That was it. And there was.
Would you get your messages in and then like they'd print them out and send them to you or give them to you?
Yeah. But no, there was no email.
So
everything came in by hard copy message.
Yeah.
Like teletype. Teletype.
Yeah.
Yes. And so you would get this, we were in port at the time, and the XO got a call, said, hey, you need to call your detailer. So I went down to the end of the pier where the payphones were and got
awesome. I remember, I was 95. I was 95 to 99 at the academy, and I remember the bank of payphones right outside of King Hall and 6th Wing. So
when I was a plebe, we were only allowed to use them on Sundays to call home.
Pretty simple,
You had a card.
Card, yep.
Yeah, and so the detailer said, "Hey, I got your, you remember that duty preference sheet you had to fill out?" And he said, "There's nothing in Norfolk." I went, because I was living in Norfolk. I had a house. We had an apartment on the beach. Down by the end of Fort Story. At the end of
beautiful.
82nd Street where it turned.
Nice. Yeah.
At the beach.
Right at the tail end of Fort Story, right where it's what's that point? Whatever that. It's like a famous. That's the famous like landing.
Oh shoot, what is it?
Yeah.
And so we in the morning shore drive, we just drive right up to Little Creek.
Yeah.
And not worry about going to NOB. And so I'm like, why would I want to leave here? It's everything's
this is
right
awesome.
Here.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what do you mean there's nothing in Norfolk? You're telling me the largest naval base in the world, there's not a job for me? He said no. I was like, well, where are you going to send me? He said, well, the last preference you had on the last assignment you had on your preference sheet was a hydrofoil in Key West, Florida. He said, that's where you're going. I said, okay. Because I put that on there as a joke. Because there are only 6 of them in the Navy. There were only 20 officers total in the squadron. So to get one
was almost like I want to be an astronaut.
Right. It was almost impossible. So I just kind of, it was like a filler. It was like every ship I put was in, or type of ship and job was in Norfolk, except that one.
That's awesome.
And he said, nope, you're going to Key West, Florida on a hydrofoil. I'm like, okay. and that was like the premier job as a young lieutenant. I mean,
and that's what kept you in.
that was it.
That's awesome.
Because there, everybody was screened, just like, so that's why, when I made the comment at EOD, everybody was screened to go down there. Everybody, even the sailors had to go, it was like an overseas screening. So everybody had to meet a certain requirement to get accepted into that program.
Yeah.
So I went from
the dredges of the Navy
to now all of a sudden I had E5s, E6s who were college degrees, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And you're flying around doing 45 knots on a hydrofoil.
What was
down
its mission? What does it do?
It was we did a lot of counter drugs. We did a lot. It was the hydrofoils were designed for NATO. They were designed to fight those Soviets in the fjords in Norway. That's what they were designed for.
That's so awesome.
So we had
It's like Tom Clancy stuff.
Yeah, it was a 185-foot long ship on foils with 8 harpoons and a 76 millimeter gun.
Holy crap!
Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah.
It was faster and more lethal than any LCS in the fleet right now.
How they make more of those?
Too expensive. We had to maintain it at aircraft standards.
Oh, because of the nature of how it moves.
Yeah.
So you stayed SWO the whole time, though, because the way you describe, and even the job now, you seem very similar to an EDO, an engineering duty officer, more than a SWO background.
Yeah, I mean, I work with all EDOs and NavArcs right now,
Yeah.
so I think that's why it carries
That's what
over.
Andy, I don't know if you've met Andy, Thor's Hammer Hunt.
I don't think so.
It's 97 grad, went EDO. He and I met. He's the last tour he's teaching in the Naval Arc department.
Oh, okay.
His last 3 years before he retired out, and now he works for Phoenix. Actually, Phoenix Systems. They do they do a ton of contract work, but they got into DSRV design, and so his project has been designing and building the DSRV for the Australian Navy, which I totally agree with you that from my perspective, I'm like, that's so cool. He hates it.
Really?
Well, I mean, he can tell the story himself, but I think the reason he hates it is because he's used to working with the U.S. Navy, who, even though they're sometimes difficult, they at least try to meet deadlines, stay on budget, in time, right? Like the Australian Navy's like, what we really want is, he's like, you just bought 6 months more of, no, it's not in the contract.
That would be frustrating.
Yeah, they're constantly not making deadlines. They're constantly rechanging.
Because you're always he's probably always having to go back and redesign things.
Yes, and he's not.
So it's kind of like a spiral.
He's an engineer, but as he said, he's got 2 degrees from MIT, wicked smart. But he's not the designer. He's the program manager.
Oh,
so he's going. So he understands, right? He's not in the business of actually crunching the numbers and doing the nerd work, but he knows how expensive that nerd work is, and so he's constantly
cost
oh my god!
He's cost schedule. That's a PM.
Yeah.
Cost schedule.
You got it, and it's driving him nuts.
But no, I have no EDO background at all, so I've gotten immersed in it in the last 4 years, with ship design and ship operations with not only with the engineering department of Ingalls shipbuilding, but with the Navy as well. Because those are they're all NavArcs, whoever you deal with. So, but that's why. But no, I've been a straight stick operator for my whole career.
So take a time machine, go back, 17-year-old, 16-year-old, Joe Leonard. Where were you coming from? How'd you find the Naval Academy? Was it, sports driven? Was it like you saw a movie? You saw, Final Countdown or Sand Pebbles? I don't know. Some SWO Navy movie that you saw. You're like, I want to go to the Naval Academy.
Mr. Roberts, no.
For anybody under the age of 30, you're like, what?
Yeah. Growing up, I always had family members. My dad was, did his 4-year enlistment in the Marine Corps. But growing up,
was he Korea?
In between Korea and Vietnam.
Okay.
So late 50s, early 60s.
Okay.
And so, so I had that always there. But we always, believe it or not, I grew up about an hour and a half from West Point.
Okay.
In northern New Jersey. And so we always watched.
Monmouth area?
Patterson, Wayne area.
Yeah.
Passaic. And so I always grew up watching Army Notre Dame. We always either went to go see Army Notre Dame, so I was always kind of intrigued by a service academy. And then it got more and more interesting to me as I went through high school. But the reason I went to Naval Academy was all basketball. I was recruited to play basketball. I was that was it.
Okay.
And so there were other schools, Ivy League schools, and then the Naval Academy, and I kept going back to the Naval Academy. But that's how I ended up there, is being recruited to play basketball there.
And then when you got there, you did not end up playing basketball?
I played my first year
Okay.
in a JV varsity kind of role.
Yeah.
So, just to play in JV and then
Sit. Travel.
Sit and travel on the varsity team. But it came to my youngster year. It was, do I want to graduate or I have no hope of becoming a pro basketball player? And so that became
this David Robinson didn't exist yet. I mean, he existed, but he was like 9.
He was a year behind me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you
We
were
played the first.
So you were 87? No.
86.
86. All right. So he was 80.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Oh, all right. So
yeah, I know David, and he probably doesn't remember me, but so halfway through my youngster year, he was just coming up as a plebe.
Okay.
So I got to know him a little bit, and then so decided I really wanted to graduate because I had no hope becoming an NBA player.
So like, what's gonna be my ticket, man?
Right, and so then from there it was like, okay, so I backed out of basketball, and it was hard. It was hard traveling for me. It was hard traveling and studying. I mean, I took tests in hotel rooms, studying on the bus to get ready for an exam in a hotel room, and it just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And so I backed out of that, and then there were guys in my company that were on the volleyball club at the time.
Was it a ECA club or was NAAA?
It was ECA.
Okay.
It was all ECA, so that was my youngster year.
If that system that exists now, where you kind of, if you looked at tiers, you have sort of like your tier 1 varsity sports,
Yeah.
your tier 2 varsity sports, those still varsity, and so
Right.
in a sense, the only difference between that, like, I would say football, basketball, and baseball are kind of your tier 1, with maybe men's and women's soccer kind of up there. Then
Right.
tier 2 are sort of your crew and
Sure.
swimming, and like they get to travel, they get all the benefits of a varsity sport, but they're not. They're drilling off season. Whereas, you know what I mean? Where like that to me is sort of the delineation. Like, you'll never see a baseball player on the drill field.
Yeah.
Right. You'll never see a football player
yeah.
on the drill field.
Or basketball.
Or a basketball player.
Yeah,
So then there's the sports, the NAAA clubs, but they're basically sports. They get to travel, they get funding, they have coaches. Then there's ECAs. So was that like sort of, were they a middle ground club, or was it a straight up ECA where you're going on your own time? It was your own.
No, it was structured.
Okay.
But it wasn't that structured. There were intramurals, club sports, and varsity sports.
Okay.
Those were the 3 that you had. And so if you didn't play varsity sport, you had to play one of the other 2.
Okay.
And so, but the club sports were funded by the brigade. We had coaches, but you were limited on how much you could travel. Like, you couldn't travel during the week. It was mainly weekends.
Gotcha.
And then intramurals
Was its own thing.
right?
Yeah.
And so, but the clubs, they were ECAs, and you lettered. You got the letter.
all right.
You got the letter with the name of the sport
On it.
on the end, vice just being a plain end.
Yeah.
And that's what differentiated you from a varsity
Okay.
athlete. So I never played volleyball before, but I was tall, and they were like, "Hey, I had to do something, right?" I backed out of basketball, so I had to do something, and so I said, "Okay, I'll give this a try." And it was goofy, but I could jump. I was athletic, and so they kind of taught me how to play volleyball. And so
you were a net guy, like kind of a setter and a
middle
spiker.
blocker.
Okay.
Yeah, the middle
I know
blocker.
nothing about volleyball. Other
Yeah,
than I've
outside
watched
hitters
it.
and a middle blocker.
Okay.
And that's how it rotates. And so you have the setter that runs around, but you have 2 outside hitters and a middle blocker, and I ran the net as the main blocker. And so I learned the fundamentals.
How many players on a side?
6.
Okay.
So you had 2 middle blockers, 3 outside hitters, and a setter.
Okay.
And so that's how it rotated around.
That's cool.
And so I had to learn all that. And so we practiced, again, we practiced from 1600 to 1800, right? And
that's 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. for those of you in the real world.
That's right. And so you get.
We've already thrown enough acronyms out that we've lost most of the listening audience.
And so
we've got Shelly and John. That's it. That's listening by this point.
And so you get. So you still had the PT time, right? And then you still had to make it. You got exempt from the evening formation and the evening meal.
Yeah.
And so when
you
were
tables where you guys could go eat and stuff. Nice.
And so when you were in season, you didn't have to drill, and so that was the main benefit. So we were a spring sport, and so we didn't have the spring drill.
So now there's those ECAs, which I think grew probably in the probably my time frame, mid to late 90s, and then just exploded over the last 5 or 6 years as every millennial came in and was like, well, I want this, I want that. And as long as you have 10 people who will do it, and a officer rep or a faculty sponsor, you can create any extracurricular activity you want. And every daunt that comes in tries to like trim it down under 100, and they get to like 105, and then it explodes back up to like 150 ECAs. Come on, we got to trim this down.
Right.
Yeah.
So and so I learned my sophomore year, and then believe it or not, my junior year they went Division I varsity.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
All right.
And so all of a sudden I became a
varsity athlete again.
A Division I varsity athlete again, and lettered that year with the big N letter.
Nice.
And lettered my senior year.
Did you guys go? And not that gold medals are the only thing we prioritize, but we're Americans, so did you guys like go anywhere, tournaments, win? You know what I mean?
We ended up my senior year.
Pop on the map.
Yeah, my senior year, I think we were ranked 8th in the nation.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
I became one of the, I think it was, 3rd or 4th team all East Coast or something at the time.
Is there a path in that sport to something like an Olympics?
It's all Olympics.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's all Olympics. And guys that, we went to watch several of the Olympic matches, which were phenomenal. If you've ever seen that level of volleyball, it's pretty violent.
But that's violent. Such a good description of it, right? Because it is. It's like they're just launching that thing at each other.
End of my junior year, the last tournament, I went up for a block and I didn't have my arm set right, and the guy hit it so hard, blew my shoulder right out of the socket.
Oh shit!
That ended my junior year.
Oh. Did it come back? Were you able to rehab it back?
Yeah, and so I played senior year, but so it's violent at a high level. I had broken every finger.
Jeez.
Blocking. Oh yeah.
Right? You just think it's like
backyard
barbecue volleyball.
No, it's pretty violent.
Dang.
Yeah.
So I remember watching. I had a plebe in one of my 111 classes, 112, whatever, plebe English classes, and she was really good. Comes in plebe year, recruited, plays varsity, and I go to watch a couple of their matches, and I just remember watching them and thinking like how I guess it would be the middle hit, the hitter, how block, set, and they come running from like halfway through, and like full out arch, like sort of the top of a snatch, and then the timing to hit that ball at the right time and get it over the net. I remember just watching them being like, oh God, you need to be a CrossFitter, you need to be a CrossFitter, and so her youngster year comes in, coach gets fired, whole staff, very similar to sort of the women's basketball story recently with Ryan.
Yeah.
New coach comes in, kind of looks at the whole sophomore class, the whole youngster class, some of the second class. Firsties, it's like, well, I can't do anything about you. You're kind of you're my legacy, or you're the legacy of my predecessor. Right. But with the second class and the youngsters, it was like, well, I knew I was coming. I'm bringing in my own recruiting class. None of you are basically going to play.
Yeah.
You can stay on the team if you want. And so she was like, I'm out. And she came over to CrossFit and was an amazing CrossFitter.
Yeah, like we had talked. Like, when you're blocking up against the net, you go straight up and then you pike.
Yeah.
What we call pike,
which is basically a hollow.
Hollow.
Yeah.
Right? And the same is when you go from an outside hit, you go up, you go from the arch to a hollow to snap
Oh,
because you can't touch the net. So it's all that movement, and you have to have the vertical jump. So we used to do, box jumps, but we didn't have boxes at the time. We had wood, the old wooden benches.
Yeah.
And we used to constantly jump up and down on a wooden bench during
So
practice.
what was the condition? Was it basically, so mid 80s, conditioning was a thing, but I have to imagine still it was
not.
player sport. Like
Right.
that, your conditioning is we just play more sport, take a lap.
Right.
Play more sport, take a lap.
Do suicides.
Yeah.
Go to, where you touch the line
Just
and come
suffering.
back.
It was just that there was no sort of deliberate or concerted effort of like this translates to this.
No,
and that.
nothing. I remember, my plebe year, and when basketball season started, they used to call them 2020s, and they set the scoreboard clock at 20.
This sounds horrible.
At 20 minutes, and you did a suicide and waited for the clock to count down to 19 minutes, and then you did another one.
So you did 20-minute imam suicides.
And that and by the end it was a matter of who was not puking.
Yeah.
Because the slower you got, the less rest you had.
Yeah.
And by
it was
15,
a death by more or less.
It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal.
That's so fun. We used to do something very similar in swimming, where you just took you started for hundreds, 100-yard, freestyles. You'd start at 2 minutes. Then your next one was 159. Your next one was 158, 157, 150, and you'd go until you couldn't make the time, and that became your pacing. You'd add like 5 seconds. That was your 100-meter pace in the next 3 months of practice, and then you do it again to recalibrate, and that was your new 100-meter pacing time. And that was so like the theory was there because that's a great conditioning workout. But then the idea, like, are you working like mobility? Are you working position work? Are you working strength work to build that core and midline stability? But they didn't.
No, all that stuff. All that stuff you had to do on your own. There was
yeah.
no. The football
wasn't
team
built into the.
No, the football team had strength and conditioning coaches, but nobody else did.
Yeah.
And so you went and jumped on remember the old Universal, where the cables and the you kind of
Smith
did,
machine.
Yeah, you kind of did what you thought you needed to do, but there was no strength and conditioning to support the sport per se. It was your athletic ability.
Yeah,
it's really all it was.
So you graduate. Do you just like leave? I'm not an athlete anymore. I'm not a. You know what I mean? Like, what does that look like other than 2 years or twice a year PRT?
It didn't even exist back then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean,
I just dated myself.
Yeah, when we were mids, it was called the applied strength test. We called it, but the mids, applied struggle is what we call it.
That's awesome.
And it was, you had to do a mile run, pull-ups, push-ups, and sit-ups. That was the strength test. And then when we graduated, the Navy was just coming online with the physical readiness test.
Okay.
And so, but it was a mile and a half sit-ups and push-ups is all it was.
And the sit and reach.
And the sit and reach. That's right. The sit and reach. And so nobody took it serious. It was just more of a hassle.
Yeah.
And I never forget the first time I was an athlete, so that was my collateral duty. Was now, okay, you are an athlete.
When you graduated? Okay.
Yeah, when I was an ensign. So, since, you were an athlete, so you're going to be now, your collateral duty is
the physical readiness officer.
Yeah, this guy. And it's like, okay, what does that mean?
Where's is there an instruction? Do I have
And so I never forget, the first time on the ship, we ran one of these.
On the LST or on the pier?
No, on the pier.
Oh, okay.
So, you bring everybody out by division.
Oh, God.
And the sailors are.
We've already established the quality of these individuals.
It gets better. And so there was no PT uniform at the time. There was none of that.
I love the name.
Right? And so guys come out and they're like, and the sailors come out
in their dungarees.
Dungarees.
Yeah.
And boots.
Oh my
or
God.
or they had some kind of shorts on.
Yeah.
And their white T-shirts.
Yeah.
White T-shirts.
Stenciled probably with their name
on
yeah.
it because they came out of boot camp, so they had some kind of PT gear.
Yeah.
If they kept it.
But again, like even then, PT wasn't PT for the sake of physical exercise. It was just punishment.
Right.
It was just to weed you out.
Right, and so sailors would show up with their black socks on, some kind of running shoe, some kind of shoe that they were
Maybe
issued.
it wasn't a steel toe boot.
No,
but still something. Slippers, shower shoes.
Yeah, and black socks, and smoking cigarettes.
Of course,
they're all smoking. I had guys run around the track smoking
with
cigarettes. Yeah, because they were just kind of walking and smoking because the times were so.
Ridiculous.
So ridiculous. So they were out there smoking, and because everybody smoked on, not everybody, but you could smoke on ships back then.
Right.
And so so it was kind of like, it wasn't really physical fitness. It wasn't about health. It was just, like you said, just kind of, we got to do this.
Yeah.
Because we got to do it. That's why. And so, but go back in time, when I was a plebe summer, they issued us. They didn't have all the fancy running shoes like they did now. We didn't even. I mean, the shoes we got issued, plebe summer.
They weren't quite Chuck Taylors, but they might as well have been.
Yeah, they're Croquettes with the big rubber toe on the front.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's what we marched around in. With talk about the worst shoe for your foot.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You remember those? They were canvas with a big rubber toe.
Yeah,
that's what we were.
Thank you, contract.
Yeah, and so, but that's what you ran in.
You
ran in that unless you had shoes. Like I had basketball shoes I brought with me.
Yeah.
That was.
And you were allowed if you wanted to wear those. Or...
No. You could wear those when you're playing your sport.
Oh,
you had to wear
your issued
shoes for everything else.
Wow.
And that's what so. Shin splints were rampant.
Yeah.
You could think of ankle injuries were rampant.
Fallen arches. That was freaking plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
Didn't even know what it was.
Everybody
they probably just
Yeah, had all of that.
Oh my God, turf toe probably
Yep, they turn black. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
God.
so 4 years later, it didn't get any better. So now the Navy's instituting this physical readiness,
and everyone's still got the same shoes, the same stuff, the same mindset around it.
Yeah, there was no training. There was
Yeah.
no training. You were expected to, do it all on your own. There was no machines on a ship. There was no gyms on a ship.
Yeah.
Being on an amphib, the Marines or the EOD would bring their weights sets with them.
Can you imagine, so I always think about this. So Greg Glassman, 91, 92, is in some Globo Fitness gym in Santa Cruz, doing his personal training stuff and just torturing people with pole climbs and stuff that if you were in the gym, you'd be like, that looks a lot like CrossFit. And then he gets kicked out, finds himself in a jiu-jitsu studio. Flash forward 2001, they're actually in the thing. They go live with CrossFit.com, but he's got it all already figured out. This is 20 years ago that he already had it. But for the 10, 15 years before that, 20 years before that, he's kind of messing around with it. Can you imagine if you were stationed in San Diego and for some reason you just run into this guy and you're like, this is genius.
Yeah.
Or you actually take the time machine and be like, I know where this is going to go. I know what this is going to be able to do. We had, he was a historian and his wife is an MD, not wife, partner is an MD, who's been through the CrossFit MD Level 1, which is the Level 1 certification specifically for doctors. It was one of Glassman's initiatives, and I think they're probably going to continue it. Rosa will continue it. And she was very complimentary of it, but there's no plan really to figure out how do you get doctors into the boxes, how do you get doctors to open boxes or affiliates within their practices and stuff, because it's expensive, it's hard. You've got to run the business of an affiliate, and you've got to run your medical business. It's a hard... Anyway, the historian, though, is a friend of a friend, and he was saying how none of this is new. In 1910 or 1912, there was a functional fitness movement, which was based with gymnastics, a lot of weight training, dumbbells, kettlebells, odd object stuff, coupled with running. They even had a world's fittest human championship in Madison Square Gardens in 1913 or 1914 or something. The Italians hear about it, and they hire this guy to train some of their top elite soldiers in just outside Toms River, New Jersey. Well, the isolationist, it was either Wilson or Hoover's administration hears about it, totally makes it very and my timing and president might be off, but they're like, oh, the Italians, fascists, we don't like them, blah, blah, and sort of vilifies this type of training in the name of sort of like long, slow endurance walking, that sort of, this functional fitness stuff with like weights and stuff. It's bad, and it quickly loses flavor, and it's gone until Glassman re-establishes it with CrossFit. And so this guy Hamilton, he's like, yeah, we've seen this before. If it had not been for the Germans and the Italians latching onto it and its efficacy, we probably would have taken it as a society, or it would have stuck, because it's so simple and it does work. The question is, will that happen again? And it's an interesting, if you could take that time machine back and pitch this with the rigor and kind of the efficacy of it, you ever wonder, like, man, could I have been if I 20, vision is 2020 or hindsight is 2020, could it have stuck? Would it have culturally latched on? I doubt it, because the Navy still doesn't. They're still not
taking it serious.
Yeah.
And every ship that I served on, or every command I went to, tried, right? Okay, we're gonna muster the whole crew on the pier at 0600 and do an hour of exercise.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like,
why?
And it was never taken serious. It was, it was done just for, I think, people saying, hey, look at us, we're trying to do this. And unlike the Marines, when the Marines, that first ship that I served on was a huge experience in a lot of ways. But just seeing the Marines, right, their culture of physical fitness, right, every morning they were on the flight deck, as they rolled their platoons through or companies through, were dedicated to physical fitness. Nothing would start unless they did physical fitness, and the Navy never.
It's funny you say
adopted that culture.
We were the same at the diving and any EOD command I was at. Good luck. Like, it was the first 2 hours of the day. Working hours started at 7, but the first 2 hours from 7 to 9 was PT and cleanup. And then 9 o'clock was actually working hours. And I was the XO at Mutsu in Hawaii at Mobile Diving Salvage Unit 1, and I had a supply officer who came in who was coming straight from a surface ship. And so he was holding training for his department at like 7:45.
Right.
And I walked down and I'm like, Suppa, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, it's PT hour. And we only mandated command PT Mondays and Wednesdays. The rest of the time you could do what you want. And then Fridays, we either played water polo in the water off the pier, or we had a flag football, or ultimate football or ultimate frisbee game, or you could go do whatever you want. And only once a month we would do a run, swim, run as the command. So Monday and Wednesday was grinder, Friday. And so, you know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of flexibility because you had a lot of CrossFitters. That's why I had picked up CrossFit at that point. So there was a lot of guys who've been like, you're killing me with this XO. Like, can't we remove one of the mandated days? Like, we're doing stuff. And so whatever. And I was like, there's more than just the PT side of it. It's a little bit of command unit. We'll make sure it's short. Like, you'll have plenty of time to do your AMRAP or your squats or whatever. But I had to recalibrate them. I had to been like, dude, your inability to figure out where you can fit this training in is not my problem. You, of all people, need to get your ass out there in PT. But aside from that, you're crushing your department's ability to be a part of a community and a command climate that prioritizes health, wellness, and physical fitness. We see those communities see the individual as the weapon system, not the technology, the missile, the software, the computer, whatever. So if my CWIS goes down, I'm now less operationally ready. I will sacrifice as many people as necessary, their time, their energy, their ability to go see their kid's soccer game, the birth of their child, right, their wife's concerns, to get that CWIS up. Versus with the community, the EOD community, the diving community, if I get a sailor who goes down, or is distracted because their wife isn't, or their spouse or whatever, their kid, they have now my weapon system, metaphorically, is degraded. And so all of those personal concerns, their health, their emotional health, their physical health, all need to be factored in to their readiness. I think that is a critical difference in the mindset. It's actually something we share with the Army. The Army sees their people as their most important resource. The Navy doesn't.
No, not at all. And you spell it out exactly right. You start your training at 7:30 with the XO, and then you went into training, and you started, the maintenance. And I had been on commands that tried to do the 7 to 9 PT, and then sailors.
Yeah.
And then that carries over to 10. Then we'll have a division meeting from 10 to 11 to get things going. Now it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
Then,
day's over.
And then that's 2 hours. And
right.
Then all of a sudden, there's 2 hours of work in an 8-hour day that actually gets done.
It's right. Well, and it's
that
you're
becomes
trying
a challenge.
you're blending instead of just adopting one mindset over the other. They're still trying to hold on to this, like,
right.
You're trying to jam the 10 pounds of crap into that 5-pound bag, and it's like, no. You got to let go of a lot of that other stuff, and it's expensive. It's managerially expensive to really say 2 hours a day from 7 to 9 is PT. I would get yelled at by, commands in the region. Where the funk were you? We called at 7:45. It's like, we PT from 7 to 9.
Yeah.
Nobody is going to answer their phone. Don't bother calling before 9 o'clock at this command. You won't get it. If you call the quarterdeck, you'll get the watch. They will take a message. They will get it to us at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, and the surface Navy is not like that at all.
No.
It's not like that. And, and I kind of understand it, and I kind of don't understand it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, but I was never able to find that balance in all the commands I was in.
So that's the question.
That balance?
What stuck this time, right? Like, so now we flash forward, you get back in the time machine. We're going to completely, minimize a 25-year career, 30 years. Did you do 30 or
quick 30?
Yeah, a quick 30. Gone, right? Now you're retired, Joe. You're
30.
You're working. You're some
quick 30. Yeah.
You're still some inconsequential now retiree. Nobody really cares about. I'm totally kidding. But all right, how do you hear about CrossFit? Why does this stick? What makes the difference that now I would argue it's a really big part of your fitness is a big part of your life.
Absolutely. So the last couple of years I was on active duty. I got in the Pentagon, and I made it a point. I made it a point that 2 hours a day I was going to go take care of myself.
Okay.
But it was always just a machine, right? It was always me. I was like, okay, what can I read to do differently on a machine?
Yeah.
And it was a rowing machine. It was elliptical.
Explain why you're so good on the rower now.
And so it became, that's all I kind of got out of it. And so then I kind of experienced with a little bit of weights. And so, but there was never any structure to it. It was whatever I felt like doing that day. And so, and then kind of the last year of my active duty service, I kind of let everything go. I just kind of honestly, I'll tell you, I gave up.
Yeah.
And I gave up because it's a kind of transition point, right? I've known this life since I was 17 when I went to the Naval Academy. And so all of a sudden it ends.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like, okay, am I going to have a job? Is somebody going to hire me when I walk out the door? What am I going to do? And
it's an identity crisis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's identity, midlife. It all kind of comes crashing down on you. And so that last year I kind of gave up. And so, and then I was very fortunate that I had incredible mentors throughout my career that reached out to me, knew I was coming out of the Navy, and reached out to me, and wanted me to work with them in their companies, and that's how I got hired. And then all of a sudden, your self-esteem goes back up. You feel, confident that, hey, there is worth in what you can provide when somebody reaches out to you, a company reaches out to you, wants you to work with their team. That's pretty.
Hell yeah! It feels. If you feel wanted, you're drafted again.
Exactly, and that's kind of what happened. And so then the first 2 years coming out of the Navy, you really want to make, yourself valuable.
Yeah.
And value added to the people that hire you.
Yeah.
You want to really show them that you're doing everything you can for them because they trusted in you. And so there was a 3-year period that I did really.
I feel as if there's a fall coming here.
Yeah, and so it's called my wife, right? But then I tried to get back in the gym, but I gained a lot of weight.
Yeah. Oh, because you're just putting in hours and hours.
It was
and
like
hours.
being a SWO again.
Yeah.
And so you go to lunches with clients and traveling all the time.
Yeah.
You're eating on the road. You're in
extra bottle of wine, extra couple beers.
Exactly.
Out. Yeah.
And so it just compounded, doing nothing for now. It's at 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been with this company 4.5 years. So now I'm at the 3-year mark. I'm, feel terrible. I look terrible. My wife always works out, and she's, to her credit, trying to get me to do something.
Yeah.
And so, and it's an ugly spiral once you're in it that, it's hard to get yourself back out of it unless you can find something or somebody to help you.
Yeah.
And then I remember, and Shelly and I were talking about this the other day. It was last year. So now I'm 3 years out of the Navy, and I was in the Sam's parking lot, and Shelly and John O'Neill, I walked into them, and Shelly and John were my neighbors when I was at the Naval Academy.
Okay.
So I've known them for...
he was the Div 1 or Div 2 director, right?
Yeah, he did that, and he was Deputy Commandant. And so,
that's right.
And so he was a battalion.
He was the man.
Yeah, exactly. And so he lived next door to me on the parade field before they moved to the bigger houses. And so, yeah. So
you don't get those big houses without pay. Yeah.
That's right. And so I've known them for a long time. And so I ran into them in the parking lot at Sam's one I think it was Sunday in last August. And, they look phenomenal.
Yes.
They are, phenomenal.
And it was, their story, I got to get them on together to kind of do this same sort of, keeping up with the creek. Because she was the catalyst. She brought him to our opening, we did a neighbor, grand opening WOD. And he did it. And he was always sort of like, I don't know. Liked it because he got his ass kicked. And then they both just turned it around, and within like a year,
wow.
They were like almost like the Biggest Loser moment, where because they were never obese,
right?
But like they would walk, if you put a picture of them walking through their own picture, you know what I mean, like that moment. I remember saying like, wow, they guys look good.
And so that's what happened. I'm like, I feel like the blob.
Yeah.
I'm getting, rolling out of my car, and here they come. And I just go, oh my God, what have you guys been doing?
Yeah.
And then that's when they explained to me this CrossFit thing.
As Shelly says, vomited CrossFit all over you.
And I kind of went, okay, I've kind of never heard about it, but obviously there's
you two sure seem excited.
There's something. Obviously there's something there. And so then John said, why don't you come Saturday morning, at 8 o'clock, because he did the 7 o'clock class. At 8 o'clock, I'll introduce you to people. I said, okay. So I had my goofy running shoes on, my goofy running shorts on, and a T-shirt. And I never forget, you said, okay, so it looks like you're ready. Why don't you just jump in? And I went, okay, I don't know what I'm jumping into, but sure, we'll kind of give it a try. And then that was it. But
we did the foundations.
Never did foundation.
Oh, that's right. I think we hadn't even started it yet.
Yeah, and I was the only person. And you kind of coached, you and Eric kind of guided me through the first month, and it was like, yeah, okay, that's good enough, and it's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And so, but Shelly and John get all the credit because, again, it was a time when I needed something, I needed somebody. And they happened to be there and directed me this way. And the structure of the program, the structure of CrossFit, and the people of CrossFit is why I keep coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, because it makes a difference.
Do you feel Eric's got a good kind of an advertising game plan, kind of utilizing some of Facebook's stuff, and he's messing around with like some different narratives. And so we just recorded 3 different versions of sort of the same story, right? Sort of the and he identified people, but then we shifted it to sort of categorical. So the person kind of in line with our 3 values: the sort of the curious, the consistent, and the courageous. Mm-hmm. But like that, consistency being like, think of the athlete. I don't care what it is. I don't even log most of my scores. Like I come Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You tell me what to do. I sweat. It feels great. There you go. Then there's that athlete who maybe used to be a team sport person, kind of fell out of it, sort of has no idea what to do. Mm-hmm. And this element of being here stimulates a lot of that, or scratches a lot of those itches that you didn't even know you needed or wanted to scratch. And then there's sort of the like me version who, like, I sometimes will sacrifice my own health for the sake of competition. Yeah. It's a little, replaces one addiction. Yeah, one addiction with another addiction. This addiction, luckily, a little bit healthier than previous addictions. But and I'm, that fully aware of it. But we'll nerd out about CrossFit. We'll talk about CrossFit. Love the intricacies of it. You know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. For you, where do you feel like you kind of fell that there's a lot of things that can stick? People get into that are healthy and support wellness, move you on that continuum of being a more physically fit human being. Why do you think this stuck as well as it has?
It's challenging.
Oh, okay. I like that.
And that is the reason why. It's different every day. Uh-huh. And no matter what your ability is, it's challenging. And so unlike going to the gym or a gym where you're just on a bike or you're just doing a mindless 5K or you're just lifting for the sake of lifting, there's no challenge. And whether you're challenging yourself with the WOD or you're looking around at the other folks in the class and you're trying to compete with them, you're challenging. Indirectly, you're challenging them and they're challenging you.
Heck yeah.
And it's that kind of experience that keeps me coming back.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I've actually grown to really, if left to my own devices, I'll work out by myself by default. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just because I'm a difficult client. I'm a difficult athlete to coach because I'm picky. I'm a little bit opinionated. I know what I like to do, and I don't want to be told what to do a lot of times. You know what I mean? And so, but I'm also aware of it, and I do like good coaching and whatever. Eric and I have talked. Like he's often sometimes like a little bit scared. He's like, yeah, I didn't know if I'm like, dude, the reason I come to your class is because I actually like how you modify what I've created. And Shelly and Amy and Mary, like same thing. I actually enjoy when they change it up. My face might not say that, but like I do. I like going to the 9:30 class because of who goes to it, and specific like Audrey. She scales and she modifies, but she's fast and she moves. And if I want to beat her, I can't say like I gotta move. And so it's the funny that you say that. It doesn't matter who's in the class. Legitimately, everybody can push everybody else. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of the infinitely scalable aspect of it.
And you don't even realize you're doing it.
Yes.
That's
like you don't realize you're causing me to have to go harder.
But it's happening.
Heck yeah.
It is happening, and that's why it's a challenge, right? It's the personal challenge, and I think I know you offer that challenge to the class. And whether, like Kenna this morning, and it's like, what did you do on that bike? I was trying to get off the bike faster than you, and you kept getting, just edging me out.
Yeah.
And
you're like, I spent 3 months on a bike during quarantine. That's right. That's what I did.
And it's just that, or Kelly's like, well, how come you didn't come to the, the solstice class and learn, because Kelly and I, we talked about this the other day, kind of came out at the same time. She was August, I think it was September, but it was we're kind of in the same place. And we did your gymnastics class, I remember, in the fall, and so we kind of do.
You guys are you two and Marita. That was so much fun.
And so we kind
light
of
bulbs.
And now it's with the
weightlifting.
The weightlifting class, and we're always, it's, Kelly urging me to come and do more, and that's what it, and that's what draws me to this.
That's awesome. Yeah, you so you had been doing it when we did the first Open, when we did the Game of Thrones Open. What? Like, it would have only been
a month.
Yeah.
Because you said sign up for the Open, and I said, what's an Open? Don't worry about it. Just sign up for it.
Open
okay.
What? Yeah.
You're like, don't worry about it. Just sign up for it. Okay.
And it was the first workout was wall balls and rowing.
Right.
And you were, that was your jam.
And then I never forget the what was it, the bear crawl?
The bear crawls and the deadlift.
I fell over my head.
Into the finish. Well, and that's like, I can imagine there's the, 21-year-old, volleyball Joe with a separated shoulder and broken fingers. Like, hell yeah, I'm spiking this ball.
Yeah.
And
what happened.
Yeah. Which is a good thing, but maybe not a good thing for us after you turn 40, 50. It's like, we don't. Yeah, screw it. Yeah, I'm going for it.
The mind is willing, but sometimes the body kind of is there. But the mind was willing to do it. And
hell yeah.
It was fine.
That's awesome.
But that's, after a month of doing CrossFit, you're like, sign up for the Open. I was like, okay, I don't know what an Open is, but okay, I'll believe. I believe, and I did it. And be curious to see how, after a year, how it goes this year.
Yeah, and it's cool. I'm happy that they are shifting it back to a late winter, early spring.
Oh, okay.
It's going to move back to February, March timeframe. A combination of reasons. The games are currently slated for September sometime, but with the way California's going, I'll be surprised if they're able to have it, and they don't just punt on this whole year. But because of that, regardless if they did have it, they can't now have the Open in October because there's there's no shifting. You know what I mean? Like, there's no transition time. So Castro always wanted it in that February, March. He was on an interview recently, and he said specifically that was always the sweet spot, mainly for affiliates, because New Year turns, people have resolutions. As a entity in the fitness industry, we actually don't see a lot of surge for New Year's resolutions, which is kind of heartening because people are already either doing it, or you get the type of, it's self-selecting, it gets the type of people. We don't cater towards Groupons for the first 3 weeks of January or like that kind of stuff. But what this does is give people sort of a 1.5 month or 2 month out goal that it gets people through the I'm gonna get back at it on the 1st.
Sure.
So they get back at it, but then by like the 20th of January they're done. Now it's like, it gets them over that 30-day hump because the Open usually starts the 2nd or 3rd week of February and goes through most of March because it's still 5 weeks. And so it's a good time of the year to get everyone through that dark ages of the late winter. And I'm always talking in like the Mid-Atlantic.
Right.
We're very Mid-Atlantic centric, East Coast centric, because California, it's never the dark ages.
It's always beautiful.
Exactly. But I'm glad because it makes it a better flow for us, and I think people do better. It was weird doing it in October at night because the sun was up. Do you know what I mean? So our Friday night lights weren't really under the lights.
Yeah, that's right.
It was still like sunny and hot. I'm like, what is this?
That's right.
And so now it actually feels like if we do them on Friday nights, which we probably will, the lights are on. It's a little bit darker.
Cold.
Yeah, there's a little bit of colder. And by the end of the Open, spring has sprung. It's starting it's warmer. The doors are open. It's still got that brisk kind of early spring, but everybody's like, and it runs into the spring, it runs into the summer, and it just kind of feels kind of almost Eastern.
Pulls you through the dark ages.
Yeah. That idea of sort of the season of growth and renewal. Anyway.
But I didn't know anything about CrossFit. I mean, you and John told me to read this book.
Breathing Fire,
Breathing
right?
Fire.
Yeah.
And that kind of was like, wow. And so I read that book, and I've actually read a few other books since then. And so, but
CrossFit centric?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Oh gosh, the Bergeron Champion book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Chasing Excellence.
Chasing Excellence. And what was the one before that?
Fronings or Spielers?
Froning's book.
That's it. It was actually
okay.
yeah.
It was okay.
I thought it was interesting his journey of losing the 1 year and then the 4 repeats and then his transition to teams. It gives insight into kind of his CrossFit's important to him, but it's not the priority. I feel like it's almost a byproduct. His success as CrossFit is a byproduct of his clarity of focus and priorities in his life.
And then the other guy, one of the other original
No, not Greg Amundsen.
I like his website. I'll go and I'll read his blog sometimes, or read his. He's written several books that are kind of interesting.
Very faith-based, Christian-based. Yeah. I've had a chance. I actually worked a lot with him early on when I was starting the box with Blue and Gold. I actually came and had dinner and spent like 8 hours at my house on our back porch talking with the mids, hanging out. Got a chance to spend time at his box. It was before he reopened Amundsen. It was a very tumultuous time in his life. He's going through a divorce. And so anyway, yeah, he's legit. Like what he projects and what he writes and what that's him. Like there's no subterfuge or like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like sometimes you see an image of something, you're like, is that really the guy?
I think I stumbled across him from the book, the fire breathing book.
Oh, right.
Because he's in there a lot.
Yeah.
So I kind of researched him, and then I started to read a lot of his blogs. And the other thing, he does a lot with the military.
Yeah, he was the LEO. He was the Mill LEO rep for CrossFit for a while.
Right, and so that kind of got my attention. And so, but it's interesting to read. They're all, their stories, but I think it kind of resonated with me is because they're all looking for a challenge. They're all looking for something better.
Yeah.
That's kind of what drew me here.
That's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. Well, I think keep us in the hour timeline. I have no idea what time it is. I guess
either. It's been fun.
Yeah. But as a listener, you kind of know that we like to end it with, and I'm sure I always like to offer.
Do a WAD,
No. One of our original. I like Chris Spieler and his partner Doug Zacharias' podcast. Icon. Well, it used to be Icon. Now I think they're changing the name of it because they were in a trademark infringement issue. The Icon name, I guess, was other. So anyway, it's Spieler's podcast, Spiel Programming or whatever. But anyway, they do a pet peeve of the day or a pet peeve of the week, which is hilarious. But I said to Eric, we need to do something similar, but let's do a gratitude. So we always do a gratitude of the week, and it can be something so small, mundane. It can be world peace. You know what I mean? It can be huge, and it can be so small it really doesn't matter. But it's just fun. It's kind of that a reset of like, what are you grateful for? And if you want me to go first, or if you're ready to rock, you can jump in.
I'll jump in. What am I grateful for? The passion that you and all the coaches share.
Thanks.
To me, that is it is special, because your passion, and I've had all of the coaches, and everyone has their passion to help people, their passion, and their dedication to the box and to everybody in the box, to me is special.
That's awesome.
That's why I'm here.
I like that. Mine's actually very similar. My gratitude is our 3 coaches, current coaches right now, Shelly, Amy, and Mary. Ryan Micheletti is our current intern. She's in the pipeline to take on, and we'll see how it works. She's got a lot going on in her life, but she's in there. But those three, as Eric, sometimes inappropriately, but he's great with nicknames. But the Schmarmies, as he calls them, which I still don't know if that offends them or not. So we use it sparingly. I try to watch for body language and facial expression. But Shelly, Amy, and Mary as individuals, but also as a cohort, legitimately, Eric and I could run. We could do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, we could cover all the classes. We could do everything. I know for a fact it would not sustain, and we would not be where we are now if they did not come on board and help round us out with the challenge. They do not pull punches if they see something wrong. I've enjoyed watching them in the last couple days, last 48 hours. Shelly and Amy jump in and take over the morning because Eric's on vacation. So I'm shifted to the nighttime for this week, and I told them, like, I cannot do the morning and the night. Mary jumping in and taking all the 6:15s for the week. So, like, just the sheer I'll do it attitude, but also the way in which they bring a different flavor of coaching. But I like yours in conjunction with it. It shares that same love and passion. So whenever I get challenged with a question by them of like, well, why did you, or do you guys ever think of, initial response is always, right? Like, are you questioning? Because I'm bred of a hierarchical nature, right? You don't question the boss, like, which is so unhealthy and inappropriate. Yeah. But hey, that's where we come from. And instead of recognizing like, oh, my reaction is not that their question is wrong or inappropriate. My reaction is why they need to keep asking that question. Because they see things that I would never see. And by looking at it and then collaboratively coming up with a solution continues to make this place better. And so I love that. So in the spirit of your constantly being challenged, they constantly challenge us and challenge themselves.
And the passion they bring to me is special.
Yeah, 100%. So cool, man. Well, all right. That's it. In the absence of Eric here, he usually ends us with a joke, but I've got one. So I went to the doctor for a consult. I've got some surgery coming up, and he kept saying like you got this, David. This is an easy surgery, David. You'll be in and out, David. No big deal. We piece of cake, David. And I finally was like, Doc, my name's not David. And he looks at me and goes, oh, that's it. No, mine is.
Oh, Eric.
No, that's my joke. I came up with that joke. Okay. Actually, I didn't. I stole it from another place. I modified it, but turned it into it's the first person effect of the Goodwill Hunting. Right. Of like you put yourself as first person, it always makes it a better joke.
Yeah, I was thinking of the Seinfeld episode of Jimmy.
Yeah. Jimmy's not happy. Jimmy's getting angry. George isn't happy. All right, man. On that note, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. And we'll see you on the creek.
You bet.